Good evening and welcome to the Walking Dead Support Group, episode 12 of season 3. This one was called The Arrow on the Doorstep. This is a broadcast from Holbrook Community Access and Media. We're live streaming, we're Twittering, we're Facebooking. So thank you for joining us. Tonight, as always, we have Jason McCarthy to my left, Keith O'Brien to my right, your other hosts of this fine show that we put together here. As we always start off, we go right into the kill count because that's the most important thing to us all about the show. Keith, what do we have for a kill count?
Tonight's kill count, we have 6.
It was a low count.
It was a low count. They were all together.
Yes.
They were all together during the show. They all went, they heard some mumblings and grumblings, and they went out. What's his name? Daryl and Andrea and...
The unknown soldier there from
Woodbury Slugger.
Woodbury Slugger.
Woodbury Slugger. Martinez? Martinez. I think.
We'll go with
Martinez. But there were 6, and they were good. There's a few good ones in there.
I thought there were a couple good kills. We'll get to those later on in our show. So first of all, thank you all for coming in. If you're on Facebook, you can find us on the Walking Dead Support Group on Facebook. On Twitter, it's at WD Support Group, and we take your comments from there. We're also trying a live stream feed, which is probably collapsing as we go forward, so hopefully that'll work. Anyone who's trying to catch that, we're working on other options with that for next week. So tonight we have a couple of things we're going to go over. This was really an episode of one-liners. Normally what we do is we have a comment where the best line of the night, and we were frantically changing that as we went along.
I was changing it.
So we'll start off with there was a treaty on the table. Mm-hmm. And as to be expected, Rick came in with a somewhat reasonable offer of, you stay this way of the river, we'll go that way of the river. What did you think of that whole setup there, Jason?
I don't think of it as a treaty discussion. I think of it as a hostage negotiation. It just seemed from the get-go there was never going to be any real talk of peace. It was just going to be the governor saying what's going to happen, and you either follow with it or...
Yeah, this was very heavy-handed negotiations. Yeah. Rick came in with an offer. You have your land, we'll have ours. Andrea jumped in on that, and then the governor, absolutely not. Keith, what did you think of this treaty discussion?
What I got out of the treaty discussion, this isn't what I learned tonight, by the way. This is what I got out of the treaty discussion, is Rick got there with his two guys. So it seemed like Andrew set it up right. You're allowed to bring 2, and you bring 2, but then Andrew's in the middle. We'll get to that later. And but he got there first. So it seemed to me that it was the ultimate setup, and I thought it was going to go bad. But in the end, it just ended up with him giving him his terms. But as we know, and we'll discuss later, they both came away with it not trusting each other.
Right.
So you got to assume that they went in there not trusting each other. The governor more not trustworthy of Rick because he had the he had the hidden gun.
Right.
He had the gun under the table. Took off his other gun, but he had a gun on the table. So he was ready to go. I still say Rick would have got to him. He would have duct tape gun, wouldn't have beat holstered gun.
No, I agree, and that was the.
That's my second place opinion.
Zach, if you could double check, we're apparently having a audio issue at the home. It's just Verizon?
Verizon.
All right, so just Verizon's having an audio feed. Zach, it's probably the box on top. Thank you. So, here we are live, and, we're going to work through our technical difficulties as we go. So give it 1 minute, Verizon. 1 minute on Verizon.
Is that official sign language?
No.
Okay.
I think this was an attempt at a treaty negotiation on Rick's behalf, where Andrea set it up with that concept, and as we've seen, the governor constantly manipulates and changes, and he's literally about himself. Rick figured out his ploy pretty quickly, and from there it wasn't going to change. So obviously they had the room spec'd out because they had that gun waiting. So they assumed things were going to go bad.
The governor he must have gotten comfortable at some point because very early in the negotiations, if you can call them that, he moved away from the gun to the other side of the table, and he didn't have access to it.
Well,
so
I think
he didn't need it.
I think he was very comfortable with the fact that Rick was seated, and that I think it was his bravado saying, I'm that tough, I'm that bad, I can put my back to you while I go get a bottle of whiskey. And that's, that was the interesting part. Now, during this whole thing, and we posted this question up on Twitter and on Facebook, and there was some interesting responses to it. What I had asked the other members of the support group is, how is Andrea going to react to both of the boys kicking her out of this meeting? That meeting wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for her. Now, granted, the governor wasn't going to do anything out of it, but the fact is he was able to kind of get her out of the room, and obviously she's not going to react well to that. Keith, what did you think?
No, she definitely went outside and pouted. But it did seem like you said, she set it up, but they know the knowledge of the layout of the building. But like you say, she got kicked out, and then she's just sitting there pouting, and then she's pouting. Herschel's making small talk with Dr. Mindbender there, and then he says, I'm going to get up, excuse me. He goes and tries to talk to Andrea. And I think that was after Andrea went with the boys for the kills. And, she wasn't having any of that. She was just, it seemed like it was a very Andrea frustration night. She got kicked out of the meeting. The boys were having a, who's got the biggest bat contest with the kills. There's no audio, so I guess I'm not going to violate any rules. And she didn't want any of that either. She kind of left that. She goes, okay, boys, you clean up the rest. I killed number 1. You guys kill up 2 through 6. And she went back to wherever she went, back to pouting. So that's what I got out of it. Again, though, she can't make up her mind. Again, this is my
Right.
the thing with the show. Andrea's, flip-flop, back and forth. Which one? Blah, blah, blah.
She wants to be in both places, but she feels like she doesn't belong in either one.
Right. And then at the end, when they're walking down Main Street there, she's on one side of the street, and the governor's on the other. Phil, not Connors, Blake, he's going to his house, and where's she going? A sleepover with somebody else? I don't know. Thought they were together. She can't make up her mind.
Well, I think she's made up her mind, but everything she does, I think she's going to be her own person. And the previews for the next episode show her talking to people, saying this isn't right. He's
Yes.
manipulating. He's lying.
He's not what he seems.
And Herschel has really kind of positioned himself as an advisor. One of the comments that had come in the other room with the audience members that are here was he's like the consigliere from The Godfather, and we saw that at the very end, which I won't jump too far ahead. So to the Verizon people, I apologize. For some reason, you've lost an audio feed, but we'll see what we can do. So the reality is, she's obviously going to be very upset. I think we know she's going to kind of figure out a way to go after him, and that'll be the end of it.
Well, she learned a great deal about him tonight that she didn't know.
Right. Well, she found out about the whole thing with Maggie and the attack, and I'm sure that's not going to sit well in totality for her. So, out of all these little storylines where we saw jockeying for who's going to be in charge of certain things and stuff, who do you think played the most important role in this story tonight? Take Rick and the governor out. Out of all our secondary storylines between like Glenn and Merle fighting back and forth, you have Herschel kind of meeting with Dr. Mindbender, meeting with Andrea. Out of all these characters, who really had that secondary major role for tonight, Jay?
I was thinking a little bit outside the box on this one. I was looking at Michonne. Michonne was the whole reason for basically everything that happened. If Michonne hadn't taken his eye, there wouldn't have been a meeting. There wouldn't have been he wouldn't have demanded that Rick give up Michonne to survive. I mean, without Michonne, it's kind of a secondary role.
Okay.
It's out of the way. It's not at the forefront like they're arguing.
And welcome back, Verizon customers.
All right.
Thank you. That's what I love about real-time information. Way to go, Zach. Zach is in our control room, manning everything and running the show for us. Keith, what did you think? Who was the most important secondary character for you tonight?
I like the Glenn scene. You mentioned it. I do like the Glenn scene. He seemed to take over like a secondary leadership while Daryl and Rick is away.
And he told Merle,
And
you're not leaving.
You're not leaving.
It's my
You're
decision.
not leaving. And that seemed to you. It seemed that Glenn and Maggie were against him about leaving. He was definitely in control, which brings up the small discussion of, Rick obviously chose who was taken to this meeting. It's
Right.
like, wherever the information got passed back and forth, however it happened, you bring two and bring two. He didn't pick Daryl and Merle because that would have been volatile. He picks Herschel, his moral compass,
Right.
and he picks Daryl, who he's always trusted.
Well, he knew he couldn't bring Merle to that
Yeah, he couldn't bring
because
Merle to
they
that.
want Merle and Merle wants them.
But
So-
they left. He must have left. Whether he left and had a discussion with Glenn, we'll never know. But Glenn seemed to take the upper hand, even when Merle got right to him face to face and said, like, what do come with me? You're like, your girlfriend got beat up. Your girlfriend,
Right.
your girlfriend got humiliated. I beat you up. Let's go get the governor together. And he said, no, I'm not having any of that. You're not leaving. Period. And then they wrestled on the floor, and Beth stepped up.
Well,
Yeah.
I think out of all the secondary characters, to me, it's going to be a toss-up between Herschel and Dr. Mindbender there. Because that whole concept of I need to document for history's sake what happened. That Herschel says, you know what, that is a good idea. That is important. That is something of value. And they had this conversation.
Went back out again.
And and this back and forth between the two of them was an interesting dialogue because, he's an odd dude. And he says, well, can I see it? And he's like, the stump. And I was like, that is so awkward. Like, that's, what is your role, dude? Like, that's what you say to somebody? By the way, I know we just met and all, but can I see a stump?
You see stump?
And he's like, no, maybe you could buy me dinner first. And all of a sudden we see this side to Herschel that we didn't know was there, which was absolutely hysterical.
Yeah, like you said, there was a lot of one-liners. I believe he said, not showing you my leg. You haven't even bought me a drink yet.
Right.
Right. Never mind that I got two guns, strapped to my stump
Right.
in case this goes sour fast.
Right. And that's the thing. We know that his advisor, as he calls him, or called himself, he's not a weapons kind of guy.
And I thought he was the butler.
That was
Brought your butler.
Wow, this episode was nothing but insults. This was like sitting at the cafeteria in freshman year in high school. It was just, you know what, your mom's fat. No, your mom's fat. It was
Sunshine.
amazing. You big head. That one was for Madison. I know she's probably watching. But I think Herschel and I think the people in the other room who called it, he has really become not only is it the conscience of the group, he is now Rick's personal advisor. And if you look at like the storyline of like The Godfather, when they're going to war, he picks a wartime consigliere, and that was an interesting twist. Now all of a sudden he says to him, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. They want Michonne. And he put it into a great context. Are you willing to risk your daughter? Now, Herschel had a great reason why they shouldn't give her up. And he says, okay, good. Now, are you willing to sacrifice your daughters?
Right.
And he says, why are you telling me this? And he says, because I need you to talk me out of it. So, the fact that Rick's on that fence, I don't think he's going to give up Michonne. I think what will happen is, as they go in, the storyline will tease us that he's going to let her go, and then there'll be something. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Someone from this cast has to die.
Oh yeah, at the end.
A major character has to go.
Major characters have to go.
Who's it
to
going
give us
to
that
be?
off actor.
Andrea.
Right.
I see Andrea going.
No, I see Merle going. And freeing up Daryl.
Well, he's got that game coming on. I don't know that he can go.
And the other thing I did notice tonight was as Rick certainly got a lot more airtime with his one-on-one with the governor, some of the followers are just so fickle because you got so much Rick tonight. The women are like, "Oh, he's so sexy." I was watching the Twitter feed, and of almost the 300 we have, so many of them were like, "Oh, Rick is so handsome. He's so beautiful." I was like, "When did Rick become the guy again?" I thought it was Daryl. What happened to Daryl?
Daryl hasn't gotten a lot of airtime in the last few episodes.
That was the amazing thing. So there's one other thing I wanted to bring up, and we'll throw into what you guys also had, but I'm starting to think AMC is now showing too much as we're getting into the episode. Yeah. There was a lot of video tonight for tonight's episode, and they used to just kind of throw you stuff, and it would be 2-3 episodes down the line. Mm-hmm. So you were always kind of, when's this going to happen? Everything we saw leading up to tonight actually happened tonight. We all believed that final meeting
was going
to be the finale.
That was going to be our finale. Yeah, we did talk. Yeah. So
So now we know there's a war coming. So that's probably going to be, the point there. But they're really showing a lot in the lead up to this. And I almost don't want to know. I didn't want to know there was a gun at that desk because I knew them sitting there. The governor had a gun. So that surprise was gone. Jay, where are you at on these previews?
The way I see it is they have their followers and their viewers so hooked that I think that's why they used to show so many episodes ahead. You look at the previews and, like you said, when is it going to happen? So you keep watching. But they have to know by now that all these people, all their viewers, they're going to keep
19
watching.
million point something are all addicted.
They're just going to watch. They're going to watch no matter what previews they put up.
Right, but is it showing you too much? Or
No, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, the plot's so good that, tonight was a little slow, but for the most part, the plot's so good that it's going to hook you anyway.
Right.
No matter what they show you.
See, this was a plot line where you had to have it to go to war. You had to have that calm before the storm. And you had to know why they were going to war. And I thought those constant one-liners was perfect. Because you had everybody sit down. It was like, two tribes. And they were discussing it. And next thing you know, nope, it's not going to happen. And so now there's faces to this. They've seen each other. They see how they react. Between the Woodbury Slugger and Daryl kind of eyeing each other up and seeing who's a better killer. And we know it's Daryl because
it's Daryl. Because Daryl's a better killer.
But they had that mutual respect there too, between the doctor and Dr. Herschel and Dr. Mindbender. There was that respect there, that camaraderie.
We're never going to call him by his character.
I know. I don't even remember what Milton.
No, not Merle. Milton.
What do you think about the previews?
I think the previews coincide with two things. Number one, the show ended with both sides preparing to duke it out or go to war with the other, as you say, go to war with the other. So the previews have to match where they're leaving you off. The previews have probably stepped up a little from the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season, they show previews what to expect as the season goes on. Now we're getting previews that are just a 2-minute blurb of where we just ended, because as we know, it's like the number one. It's one of the top shows in the 18 to 49 market, and AMC knows it. So they need to promote the show the best they can.
Do you think this is helping them find newer viewers?
I think they find newer viewers every day because, with guys like us.
Right.
Right.
This show brings them in.
You know what the sad thing is? It's the fact that we have a following all over the place and people actually ask us for questions about the show, like what do we think is going to happen? What about this character? We're not writers, but we're just absolutely
we post. You post on Twitter. We're posting on Facebook during the show. We're posting on Facebook now. We're doing the show. People are watching it. As people will know, we'll come to find out now, we don't have any audio for Verizon, so people are just going to be hitting F5, 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 waiting for the YouTube load up so they can watch the show. So we got those people watching the show. Right. We forward it on Facebook, and people say, I can't believe you do that show, Keith. And I'm like, I do the show. I'm a fan of the show. Yeah, I'm watching season 1 and 2 now on Netflix. I'll be caught up in by the weekend.
It's crazy.
So it's crazy how you do it. And we know now, as Alex had pointed out, sent me a message, I think he sent it to Jay, that we have copycats. We're doing a great show, but we're not the only ones doing it.
Right.
I mean, we saw a YouTube blurb of some guy doing it for like 3 minutes. We do it for 30 every week. So if he's a fan, he's watching, step up your game. Power Ranger dude.
Yeah, there are other groups out there that are starting to do this, and I think it's great. We certainly don't own the market on this, but it is a lot of fun. And I do look for what they're saying. Realistically, we're doing a half-hour segment, and we're going to dive into a whole lot of things. Yeah. We do a ton of research into this. We have a live audience with us. We're interacting right away with people who are Facebooking and Twittering and texting us. So, keep it coming. We really do enjoy it. So that's the best part, and it's the Walking Dead support group on Facebook and WD support group on Twitter. So, do you have any other notes from tonight's episode before we go too far into this? Anything else you wanted to bring up from this episode?
Just a thought that crossed my mind is these two groups, as you saw them together, the people that were outside the meeting, they really got along. I mean, they weren't the best of friends and sharing drinks, but there was that respect there, talking, understanding each other, learning about each other. And if given a chance, I mean, these two groups could possibly work really well together.
Right. But there was a bit where they were all kind of chomping at, oh, what's going on? I want to know. And Herschel says, leave it alone. We'll know soon enough if we're going to be at each other's throats. And that's true. I mean, imagine, a couple of warriors, sitting around saying, well, what's your chieftain doing? I don't know what yours doing. Well, we're going to kill you. Yeah, we could kill you too.
Yep.
And you're waiting for that order of kill or be killed, or, it's peacetime. And so, I mean, that was an interesting kind of role for them to see. Keith, do you have any other things you want to bring up in tonight's notes? Because you do actually have a ton of notes over there, kid.
Well, we discussed that. I mean, I know you can't zoom in, but is this notes or is this doodling?
It's doodle notes.
It's doodle notes.
Doodle notes.
Doodle notes.
Do the notes.
Do the notes. So I do have quite a notes because I doodle.
I apologize.
We are horrible, yeah. We didn't touch on it, but the subject matter of the title is Arrows of the Doorsteps. And I first started with the arrows on the doorsteps were during the meeting that both sides had equal amount of people outside commiserating with each other. Like you said, we had Dr. Mindbender and Herschel. We had Martinez. So what I'm saying is you got equal groups, and I thought that originally was the arrows on the doorsteps. They're outside while we're inside. Then in the end, I say the arrows on the doorsteps is both sides split up. I gave you my demands for two days, but the governor's not going to stand by that. He's getting ready now. Rick goes back, has a similar meeting with his group, and says, I'm not waiting the 2 days. We're going to war. And basically they both lied to both their groups, essentially. But
If Rick's smart,
again, like I said, because they talked about it, because, not to cut you off, but the governor said before, he said he was doing something before it all started, and he said something like, I'm their leader now, and he kind of made it sound like he had him fooled, but a great leader is having people do things, and you're really not leading, they're doing it for you.
Right.
And basically they went back, he had the little team meeting, and he's going to get these people riled up, Rick and the governor, to go against him.
Right.
So he's leading them. They might not be the best leaders, but
Well,
they're doing exactly
every
what they need
military
to be done.
leader will give an inspiring speech. I mean,
Correct.
Yes, I'm very nerdy. I like Shakespeare. There's probably one of the best speeches ever given is the St. Crispin's Day speech, where Henry V is telling this very small band of people the numbers that he has to stand up against the French army. It's one of the most inspiring speeches, and that's where the line "Band of Brothers" come from. And so, in World War II, the series Band of Brothers paraphrases the Shakespearean quote and never actually gives reference to it. It's a line from that speech of St. Crispin's Day where he says, it's us, it's we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. And you have to give them some kind of inspiring speech. And sometimes that fear of going into the war means you need to be careful and you need to not second guess. Mm-hmm. If something's in your way, you need to do what you need to do to get through this. And Rick is at least honest why he lied. He's honest to his advisor why he lied and what it meant. And he's literally saying, give me a checks and balances, where the governor has that opportunity because he's got Mindbender, he's got Andrea. And I know you're not a big fan of Andrea. I, however, am. I really think Andrea is a very strong third possible kind of leader. And I think she's going to defect people out of Woodbury. But you need to rile your troops up in a way that inspires them to get out and fight. And the governor knows, or
Phil Connors.
Nope, Phil Blake.
Phil Blake.
But we know he does not have people who are trained to fight. He doesn't have as many. And even the smallest and the weakest, Beth tonight draws a gun, fires a round. And you know how many people went nuts over that? Yeah. That was absolutely hysterical.
There are extremely, and I'm a fan of Andrea. I just know where she lies.
Right.
Haha, governor's bed. Sorry.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
All right, so we're nearing...
touching on that, when you started talking about AMC in the video, I thought you were talking about like all the skin. I thought maybe they were going a little too far on that.
That
was a little...
That was a little surprising. That was a little awkward.
That was a little much.
Glenn? So as we're rounding into the last 5 minutes of our show, what we usually do is we round it up with... we have the kill of the night, the best line of the night, and what did you learn tonight? So I'm curious, those of you who are going to watch this later on YouTube or wherever you're catching us now, send us something what you learned from this. I'd like to know what you think, what the kill of the night was for you, the best line of the night for you, and then what did you learn tonight. But as in our time-honored position here, yes, with 5 minutes to go. Kill of the night?
Baseball bat off that water tank. Or
That
fuel
was
tank, whatever that
fantastic.
was.
Keith?
I will go with Darrow's arrow through the first zombie into the neck of the second zombie, knife to the head.
And because I have to go with something completely different, Andrea's jumping up and just going, get out of my way, the two of you, and knifing right through. And I think somebody else in the room said, oh, there's the eye for the governor. So that was the kill of the night for me, although I did love that baseball bat.
That baseball bat was good, yeah.
Good.
Keith, what was your best line of the night?
My best line of the night, I will go with, I thought you were a cop, not a lawyer.
That was a good one. That was a good
My
one.
buddy Phil Blake giving it back to Rick.
Jay, what was your best line of the night?
I have to go with Herschel. I'm not showing you my leg. I just met you. At least offer me a drink first.
That was pretty good too. I have that.
By the way, that is the most comfortable you've been on TV yet. You were like, you channeled Herschel there. I'm very proud of you. Very good.
Thank you.
For me, I'm also going to
Jason, show him your leg.
Yes.
Not without the proper.
I have
drink.
bought you a drink.
That's true.
I'm going to go with my best line of the night. Also goes to Herschel, but it's the if it all goes south, we'll be at each other's throats soon enough. I really thought that shows the level of calm and centeredness that Herschel has. So that to me was.
We also have, I have to say this just as a follow-up. We
Sure.
have, you're just a town drunk who knocked over my fence
Yes.
and tore up my lawn.
Yep.
Because that right there was very good too, you know?
That was a great line.
That was good.
So tonight, Jason, what did you learn from this episode?
The governor, it's not possible for him to tell the truth. Everything has to be a lie. Everything has to be an
There's an
manipulation.
angle on everything.
Absolutely. It's astonishing.
Keith, what did you learn tonight?
I took away that from tonight that this meeting, like I had touched on, that they all showed up with the same amount of people, and these people, except for Andrea, take her out of the subject because she didn't have an equal at the meeting. They're all similar people. You got Rick and the governor. Governor now tells Rick how he rise to power. He was a nobody,
Right.
and he didn't step up. He was thrown into a situation where he's a leader, much like Rick. We've got Herschel being his moral compass, and the doctor saying that he's the other guy's the governor's advisor, which is kind of crap, but it's like they're equal. And you've got Darrell asking Martinez, what did you do before this all started? What you're learning is that these groups, and I'm sure there's other groups in any kind of situation like this, that they're all just regular people doing the best they can. It's just a victim of society that you have to have this meeting. They can't get together or just be as one. Why can't we all get along, Rodney King?
Very good. And as we're coming into the final few seconds here, what I've learned tonight is that apparently walkers have very squishy heads on the side, because I've never seen a head like that just crumble, because they have hit a few of those walkers like that. And the other thing I have
Rank's
learned
up there
is,
with the foot stomp.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing
Volkswagen.
I have learned tonight is
In the
that
hatchback. In the hatchback.
I finally have Keith hook, line, on sinker on the whole duality mirror images of each group and how they all coexist, and
It's true.
everyone has their own particular role.
I must mention, we didn't hear a Bible verse tonight.
No. We didn't get
no.
biblical out of you.
No, we didn't.
He's very tired though.
We didn't. No, we didn't. We didn't have that tonight. There was no real good biblical reference. So as we're coming into the final stretches, once again, we are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are experimenting with live streams, so I know 3 or 4 of you volunteered to try to monitor that for us tonight. If it didn't work, don't worry. We're coming up with other options and better high-tech gadgets for next time.
You are always welcome, if you're local,
Yes.
to join.